Hi, a very good afternoon to all our guests. I think the number of participants is just increasing. Welcome everybody to IIFL's Bright Minds Bold Insight series, where I, Dr. Gaurav Kulshresh, your host, will endeavor to bring the brightest minds in finance live in conversation with you to share their bold insights on events and developments that define capital market trends, exclusively for your benefit. Today, for this post-budget webinar, we are honored to have with us Mr. Nilesh Shah. Nilesh Bhai, as I fondly call him, is the Group President and Managing Director of Kotak Mahindra AMC. Kotak Mahindra AMC manages more than 4.8 lakh crores of AUM. So that is the size of money that is at the disposal of Nilesh Bhai. So we all look up to him for his views. He is also a member of Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Unique Identification Authority of India, also a director on AMFI, and a member of SEBI's Corporate Bonds and Securitization Advisory Committee. With his profound knowledge and extensive experience in the financial sector, Nilesh Bhai will guide us through the key highlights of this budget, offering clarity on how it shapes our economic future. Stay tuned as we delve into strategies that can help you navigate the changing tide and seize the opportunities by spotting emerging trends. Please join me in welcoming Nilesh Bhai. A few housekeeping things. We will have Nilesh Bhai share his views for about 30 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A round. You can ask your questions by putting it on in your question and answer window. So you can type your questions. We already have some of the shared questions with us through RMs, but we will try and address as many questions as possible and time permitting. But thank you everybody for joining. Over to you, Nilesh Bhai. Look forward to your views on the budget and economy.
Thank you, Gaurav Bhai. Very good afternoon to everyone. This budget is a Triveni Sangam. Triveni Sangam of fiscal prudence, where fiscal deficit this year will be lower than expectation, and also next year will be lower than expectation. And from current 60% central debt to GDP ratio, next 6 years target is to lower it to 50% debt to GDP ratio. So हम अपने बच्चों पे कम से कम कर्जा छोड़ के जाएंगे, ऐसा प्रावधान इस बजट में किया गया है. I don't think so any parents would like to leave more debt on their kids, and Sarkar is our Mai Baap, so they should also follow the same. The second Sangam is consumption boost. We have all seen how urban consumption has slowed down. Inflation, tax impact, lower wage growth, be the case as it may be, there was expectation कि middle class के लिए सरकार कुछ करे. The tax rebate of 1 lakh crore is much more than what market was expecting. Income tax limit has moved from 7 lakh rupee to 12 lakh rupee. That was way beyond expectation. The third Sangam was focus on capex. This year, we couldn't spend for variety of things, including election. But next year's number is about 10% growth over revised estimate of current year, or almost similar as budgeted estimates of current year. More importantly, सरकार ने एक कैरेट दिया है स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को कि आपको 50 साल के लिए 1.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए का लोन इंटरेस्ट फ्री देंगे अगर आप इस पैसों से कैपिटल स्पेंडिंग करें. लाडली बहना में पैसा मत लगाना, रास्ते बनाने में, पावर प्लांट खड़ा करने में, म्यूनिसिपैलिटी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर खड़ा करने में लगाना. ओवरऑल त्रिवेणी संगम है ऑफ फिस्कल प्रूडेंस. जितनी चद्दर उससे थोड़ा ज्यादा पैर फैलाए, अर्बन कंजम्पशन को बढ़ावा दे और कैपिटल स्पेंडिंग के ऊपर फोकस जारी रखें. अगर आपने खर्चा बढ़ाया और डेफिसिट कम की तो मामला क्या है, कहां पे गोची है? वेल, देयर इज नो स्लाइट ऑफ हैंड. This year, we have been lucky with dividend income from RBI, PSU banks, and public sector enterprises. We are getting roughly about 3,25,000 crore as dividend. STT is also contributing 77,000 crore against 59,000 crore this year. And more importantly, Finance Minister has made a bold assumption. As we lower taxes, as we increase tax exemption limit, people will comply with tax laws more willingly, and tax compliance will improve. This year, tax buoyancy is 1.1. Next year, it is assumed at 1.3. Now, हमें देखना है कि citizens of India tax compliance बढ़ाते हैं या नहीं बढ़ाते. There are many whales and sharks and big fishes which are outside of tax net. If they increase compliance, if they start believing कि जब वो इनकम टैक्स देंगे क्वीन विक्टोरिया को नहीं भारत सरकार के पास जाएगा, तो 1.3 टैक्स buoyancy is possible. But otherwise that number looks higher. Advantage ये है कि अगर टैक्स कंप्लायंस कम भी हुआ तो जो गैप है वो हम डाइवेस्टमेंट के जरिए भर सकते हैं, एंड अगर ग्रोथ बढ़ती है तो रेवेन्यू अपने आप बढ़ जाएगा. So revenue side tax buoyancy number is subject to increasing compliance by citizens of India. This budget is good for economy because ये डिमांड और सप्लाई दोनों साइड के मेजर्स को काउंट कर रहा है. Last 10 years, government focused on building infrastructure. Let's build roads so that connectivity will bring efficiency. Cargo will used to take 14 days to go from Chennai to Delhi. On a better roads, that will happen in 5 days. A power plant running properly gives 100% power. Earlier, we had 10% power shortage. Today, it is 0.5%. This created supply side efficiency, but the demand side was slowing down. This 1 lakh crore tax rebate is demand side push. लोगों की जेब में पैसा दिया है ताकि लोग खर्चा करें. Now we also have a role to play here. If we take this 1 lakh crore to spend in Singapore and Thailand and Europe, then there will be no benefit to India. We must spend this money in India. Go to Prayagraj for Kumbh Mela rather than Singapore. Spend money on Indian airlines rather than foreign airlines. If this 1 lakh crore rebate is spent in India, then there will be multiplier effect. When we have to light a cracker, we ignite the fuse. This 1 lakh crore is the fuse which finance minister has ignited, and how we all behave in spending that 1 lakh crore will determine कि फटाका फूटेगा या फुसफुस हो जाएगा. Assuming that people will spend money, because this rebate is given to people earning, let's say, from 7 lakh rupee to 15 lakh rupee. This segment's roti kapda makan is secure. They will go and spend money on healthcare, education, travel and tourism, entertainment. So we believe this segments will benefit from the consumer multiplier effect. And hence this is time to look at sectors like hotel, tourism, travel, airline, education, though not many listed companies are available in education space, and pharma and healthcare. The second benefit of this budget is capex. If center and state this year spends actually what they have committed, that will be about an improvement of 17% over last year. 10% at center level and 7% at state level. That put together should be good even for capital goods and infrastructure companies. ऑब्जर्व क्या करना है, सरकार खर्चा कर पा रही है या इस साल की तरह खर्चा नहीं हो रहा है. This budget has invested for future. 10,000 crore has been given to SEBI for fund of fund, which will encourage domestic venture capital industry. Let's hope इसमें से नए निखिल कामत निकले, नए आदित्य पलीचा जैसे जेप्टो के फाउंडर निकले, नए नए वेंचर इंडस्ट्रीज निकले. 20,000 crore is given for innovation and deep tech. This is part of overall 1 lakh crore fund announcement last year. 20,000 crore इस साल खर्चा होगा. इसमें से डीप सीक जैसी एआई फाउंडेशन प्रोग्राम निकलेगी, कहना मुश्किल है, बट 20,000 करोड़ खर्चा करेंगे तो कुछ ना कुछ तो बना देंगे. We are spending 25,000 crore for maritime development. India spends 50 to 70 billion dollar on logistics. 600-700 बिलियन डॉलर गुड्स इंपोर्ट करते हैं, 400-450 बिलियन डॉलर एक्सपोर्ट्स करते हैं, और फिर भी अपने पास अपनी शिप्स नहीं है. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इज प्रोवाइडिंग 25,000 crore for shipbuilding. There is also support for education sector by extending broadband to government school and by digitizing books. Our real challenge is the quality of teaching at ground is very poor. Through broadband connectivity, if they can watch videos of Khan Academy or such other teachers, hopefully learning deficiency will get covered. And if they can access books on cloud, on digital versions, that will give them enough material to read. Obviously, लोगों ने पढ़ना पड़ेगा, but today every kid has access to smartphone and tab. Hopefully, this investment will produce results in terms of more knowledgeable and more employable Indians. Overall, economically, ये budget ठीक है. Now let's talk about market. मार्केट में आज एफपीआई की सेलिंग चालू है. हमें लगता है ये कुछ दिनों के लिए चलती रहेगी. फर्स्ट, देयर इज अ सेलिंग बाय एफपीआईज ऑफ इमर्जिंग मार्केट एज एन एसेट क्लास. पिछले 10-15 साल में इमर्जिंग मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करके किसी का खास पैसा नहीं बना है. इमर्जिंग मार्केट में इंडिया ने 7-10% डॉलर रिटर्न दिया. चाइना, ब्राजील, साउथ अफ्रीका, रशिया उसके ऊपर पानी फिरा दिया. तो निवेशक ये सवाल उठा रहे हैं, व्हाई शुड वी इन्वेस्ट इन इमर्जिंग मार्केट, जिसने हेडेक ही दिया है, रिटर्न तो दिया नहीं है. एंड व्हाई नॉट वी इन्वेस्ट इन अमेरिका व्हिच इज डूइंग सो वेल. सो देयर इज exit of emerging market as an asset class, and we have seen India getting its share of redemption. The second thing happening is President Trump's policy. वो कहते हैं अमेरिका फर्स्ट, मेक अमेरिका ग्रेट अगेन, I will cut taxes in America to support corporate. Now all this thing is pushing American FPIs to book profit and move money back to America. यूएस में इंटरेस्ट रेट सितंबर 24 में लग रहा था गिरेगी. फेड ने रेट भी काटे 100 बेसिस पॉइंट से, बट 10-year यील्ड ऊपर चली गई बिकॉज प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप की पॉलिसी की अनसर्टेनिटी की वजह से. तो आपको यूएस में 4.5% गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज पे ब्याज मिलता है. प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप कहता है पैसे अमेरिका में वापस लेके आओ, टैक्स कट दिख रहा है जो ईपीएस बढ़ाएगा। नेट नेट अमेरिकन एफपीआई की बिकवाली चालू रहेगी। शॉर्ट टर्म में मार्केट एक वोटिंग मशीन है, जिसके जितने वोट वही जीतेगा। लॉन्ग टर्म में मार्केट वेइंग मशीन है, जिसका जितना वजन उतना ही दिखेगा। तो बजट हमारे फंडामेंटल्स इंप्रूव कर रहा है, बट राइट नाउ जमाना फ्लोस का है। राइट नाउ जमाना इमर्जिंग मार्केट की एग्जिट का है, और इसलिए एफपीआई की सेलिंग चालू रहेगी ऐसा लगता है। देन सवाल ये उठता है, शुड वी गो एंड सेल इन द मार्केट एवरीथिंग बिकॉज एफपीआईज आर सेलिंग? वेल, डोंट मेक दैट मिस्टेक. FPIs are already underweight India. Against 19% weight of India in MSCI Emerging Market Index, FPIs are around 17%. So their selling could stop at some point of time as our fundamentals improve and their underweightage keeps on increasing. हो सकता है FPI में ये ज्ञान आ जाए कि भाई इमर्जिंग मार्केट एज एन असेट क्लास देखने की जगह पे इंडिया एज एन असेट क्लास देखना चालू करे. Already there is about $30 billion worth of India dedicated funds. भगवान ने चाहा तो वो 200-300 बिलियन डॉलर भी हो जाएंगे आज नहीं तो कल, बिकॉज ऑफ आवर परफॉर्मेंस. सो don't mimic FPI even though it looks likely that they are going to sell for some time. At this point of time, what should then we do? Keep equal weight allocation to equities as an asset class. Na zyada na kam, na leverage, na under invested. Focus more on quality companies because except last 3 months, पिछले 1.5 साल में गधे घोड़े सब दौड़े थे. अब दिख रहा है कि गधे गिर रहे हैं और घोड़े चल रहे हैं. So go for quality companies at reasonable valuation. Avoid the trap in low floating stock counters where operators and low floating stock is creating miracle. Third, be little bit overweight large cap over mid and small cap. Large cap में FPI की selling की वजह से valuations have become reasonable. Small and mid cap में थोड़ा अभी भी valuation ज्यादा लगता है. Most importantly, keep some cash in your portfolio so that you can take advantage of correction. And finally, please invest with moderate return expectation. पिछले 5 साल बैटिंग पिच थे. कल अभिषेक शर्मा जैसे खेला, अंग्रेजों की धुलाई कर दी, बिल्कुल वैसी पिच थी. Small caps delivered 25-26% return. Large caps delivered 16% return. आने वाले 5 साल में पिच बॉलिंग पिच है. Valuations are reasonable, not cheap, like in COVID time. And returns will be high single digit, low double digit, not 20% plus. So invest with moderate return expectation. Keep a watch outside of equity. Gold is doing well as central bankers around the world have become like our housewife. सोना खरीदते रहो, बेचो मत. There is a race between our housewives which buy about 700-800 tons of gold every year and central bankers which are buying 1,000 tons of gold every year. अब इतनी गोल्ड सप्लाई तो है नहीं कि इन दोनों की डिमांड को मीट कर सके. Gold prices are going up as central banks are diversifying their reserve into gold. चाइना के $3 ट्रिलियन के गोल्ड रिजर्व में गोल्ड $150 बिलियन के आसपास है. जाहिर है कि वो उसको बढ़ाने की कोशिश करेगा. चाइना गोल्ड खरीदेगा तो गोल्ड के दाम ऊपर रहेंगे. सो डू इन्वेस्ट इन गोल्ड. सेकंड इज फिक्स्ड इनकम. नाउ टुडे देयर इज नो सर्टेनिटी. फेड क्या करेगा? रेट काटेगा, बढ़ाएगा, कुछ नहीं करेगा. But in India, there is certainty with this fiscally prudent budget that interest rates can come down. So effectively, we believe this is time to invest in long-term debt, not with 3-6 months horizon, but 12 to 18 month horizon. This time looks like India will cut rate first. And thereafter, it may get supported by US Fed rate cut as American debt burden starts putting pressure on them. Overall, budget is good because there is Triveni Sangam of fiscal prudence, boost to urban consumption, and focus on capex. Markets will continue to witness FPI selling as they are exiting emerging market as an asset class and America first policies of President Trump. We should not follow FPI's behavior because our economy is doing well, markets are reasonable, and FPIs are becoming underweight India. Aaj nahi to kal, they could turn buyer or their selling could stop. जब तक वो बेच रहा है मार्केट नीचे आता रहेगा बिकॉज उनकी साइड नोन है. If I know you are selling, I'm not going to give you easy exit. I'll lower prices and give you exit. Markets will bottom out जब उनकी selling खत्म होगी and जब उनकी buying चालू होगी तो market तेजी से भागेगा. Focus on quality over momentum, reasonable valuation over expensive valuation, and focus on focus on higher floating stocks rather than lower floating stock counters. Keep a watch on debt and gold. Both looks attractive. This is broadly what I had to say about market and budget, but happy to take questions, Gaurav bhai.
Thank you so much, Nilesh bhai. It's always a pleasure to hear your simple, lucid views, and I really admire your style of communication and connecting with every type of investor across the length and breadth of this country, and that is what our clients are, right? We are present across the length and breadth of the country, and people have joined in from remote places as well, and also the metros where our ultra HNI clients reside. So I have a few questions which are already flowing in. So there's a question on what is your view on global trade, global currency, and global debt due to the global tariff war? This is asked by Mahendra Prajapati. So if you could answer that question for him.
So Mahendra bhai, President Trump is likely to keep on levying tariff in order to support his election promises. Now, is it a tactic or is it a strategy? As of today, it looks like a strategy where they want to leverage tariff to bring manufacturing back to America. But please remember, not only our markets are down because of tariff, but so is Nasdaq future, so is S&P 500 future. Tariff is a war where no one benefits. In 1929, Great Depression, apart from World War and central bankers of the world in those days who remained tighter, a large part was levying of tariffs by various countries on each other's trade. People do learn from their mistakes, and hence I believe after initial hits and realization, tariff war will move from strategy to tactic. America will put heavy tariffs to ensure that they get some security on their critical items, semiconductor chips, some of the medicines. They wouldn't like to be vulnerable to China or any other country for sourcing their critical goods. But will they keep on levying tariffs for toys and soaps and detergents and things like that, garments? Unlikely. Global trade this year will get impacted by tariff levy, but it could get a boost thereafter. Hope that answers your queries, Mahendra bhai.
Yeah, that query seems to be answered, Nilesh bhai. Moving on, so Juma Saha is asking your views on EV and alternate energy stocks. Uh, Juma, we can't comment on individual stocks as per compliance requirements, but on a sector view, we can ask Nilesh bhai to share his views on EV and alternate energy.
So, Gaurav bhai, please keep options open on alternate energy. The world is moving at a technology which we haven't seen. Today, in US, twice they have created a sun equivalent through nuclear fusion. आपने स्पाइडरमैन मूवी देखा होगा जहां पे डॉक्टर ऑक्टोपस थे जिसके मेटल्स के हैंड थे एंड ही वाज ट्राइंग टू मेक अ सन इन द लेबोरेटरी. वो रियल लाइफ में हो चुका है. Through nuclear fusion, more energy is produced than energy consumed. And the researchers believe that by 2030, energy will be available for free. China has also confirmed that through nuclear fusion, they have achieved similar result. But China क्या बोलता है क्या दिखाता है वो हाथी के दांत की तरह है. Second thing, there is focus now on small modular nuclear reactor. This budget, India has put 20,000 crore for small nuclear modular reactor. I believe India has the technology to make small modular nuclear reactor. And that can also tilt energy in favor of nuclear reactors. Smaller nuclear reactors are more manageable and less accident prone. And could this swing from wind, solar towards nuclear? Who knows? Today, renewable energy is focused from environmental point of view, but in reality, it is more and more solar and wind and less of hydro. But through nuclear fusion as well as fission, we could see nuclear reactor coming back as alternate energy, and the stocks which will ride that will be totally different. So my recommendation, please don't commit yourself to one energy, solar, wind, hydro, nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, and there will be many more which I don't know. इसमें से कौन सा घोड़ा मकाम पे पहुंचेगा कहना मुश्किल है. Diversify yourself into good companies across these sectors. That portfolio approach will work well.
Thank you, Nilesh bhai. Next question is on, is there a concern on USD INR, or rather, let me put it broadly, what are your views on the currency situation, is what Shashank Panchal is asking.
So if your concern is that rupee नीचे जा रहा है, the concerns will remain. अपने रुपये का भाग्य ही है depreciate करना, गिरना. Why do we say that? Well, our inflation is higher than our trade partners. उनका 2-3% है, अपना 4-5% है, और अपनी प्रोडक्टिविटी उनसे कम है. यहाँ पे नारायण मूर्ति कहते हैं 70 घंटे काम करो, लोग झंडा लेके खड़े हो गए. चाइना में लोग 100 घंटे काम करते हैं, कोरिया में लोग 90 घंटे काम करते हैं, तो अपनी प्रोडक्टिविटी उनसे कम है. So destiny of rupee is to depreciate because of higher inflation and lower productivity. Rupee can appreciate only if this reverses. We don't foresee that happening in the medium term. So rupee will keep on depreciating. Earlier, it used to depreciate 7% a year. Now it depreciates 2-3% a year. But rupee will keep on depreciating against most of the currencies because our inflation remains higher and productivity remains lower.
Thank you, Nilesh bhai. Next question from SM. Okay, a cryptic name. Your views on building position in US stocks at this time with US FPI taking money back to US. Okay, slightly unrelated from the budget theme. Maybe you can just give a couple of line views on this one and we can move to the next question.
So Gaurav bhai, as Mr. SM will know, I am not an expert on US. हमारा तो खेला भारत में ही है. But you must invest overseas from a diversification point of view. Many of us would like to send our kids abroad for study. Many of us would like to go abroad for travel. Many of us would like to participate in industries and businesses which are not present in India. There's not a single company in India which can benefit from nuclear fusion today. For that, you have to invest offshore. So you need to invest in US. How much, to what extent, where, I will leave it to the experts.
Okay. There are some questions on specific views on chemical sector, paint sector. So maybe I'll just pose it like, the budget announcements. Which sectors do you believe, Nilesh bhai, will be winners and where, one can have significant opportunities to make allocations and returns?
So 1 लाख करोड़ का जो टैक्स रिबेट है वो 7 से 15 लाख रुपए की इनकम वाले के पास जा रहा है. Where will this guy spend? Unlikely on रोटी कपड़ा मकान. ऐसा नहीं है कि ये लोग सब फटे कपड़े पहन रहे थे तो अब जाके नए कपड़े लेंगे. They are more likely to spend on visiting Prayagraj for Kumbh Mela. So airline, tourist, hotels, travel, ये sector benefit करेंगे. They are more likely to spend this money on premium products. So middle to premium brands in staples, durables should benefit. They are also likely to spend on healthcare because no one wants to fall ill. So healthcare related spending can also increase. So I will say airline, hotel and tourism, travel, healthcare, domestic, and entertainment, movies and OTTs, they should benefit from this 1 lakh crore tax rebate, and those are the sectors to look at.
Thank you, Nilesh bhai. In continuation, there's a question on while you've partly picked it in your initial discourse. Devraj Casey is asking, what is your view on small caps and mid caps? Can we buy or still hold? So maybe you can just clarify your views on that.
So Devraj ji, if you look at small and mid cap, they have far less FPI holding compared to large cap. So it will be fair to say if we believe FPIs are selling, they are more likely to sell in large cap than in small and mid cap. But you also have to look at valuation. There are many small and mid caps where valuations are high, not because they are doing well, but because their float is limited. It is in the hands of promoters and operators. Those kind of small and mid cap should be avoided because they are expensive from a valuation point of view. Other than that, you could invest in small and mid cap which are reasonably valued or which have higher growth. In small and mid cap, focus on quality. पिछले 1.5-2 साल में गधे घोड़े सब दौड़े थे. Now it is time to bet on horses, not on donkeys.
Great. I think that's a fairly straightforward answer, Nilesh bhai, and thank you for that candid view. Akshay Magdam is asking, and it's a bit of a sentimental question. When will the sentiments of Indians stop depending on the policies and trends set by Western markets and brokerages. And I know that, last couple of weeks there has been a very heated debate on social media around are we, giving an easy exit to FIIs, when they are wanting to sell and book profits, and some comparisons on, India as it existed like 2, 3 decades back and vis-a-vis where we are now. So maybe your thoughts on this subject will help people understand how they should react.
So Gaurav bhai, there was this story of Gautam Buddha where there were people who were stoning a woman for she committed a sin. And then Gautam Buddha asked a question that, of course, if someone has committed a sin, you can throw a stone. But you should throw a stone, only if you haven't committed any sin. We have forgotten Gautam Buddha's blessings. On social media, people who have committed sin are far more vocal and people who have not committed sin are far less. तो ये नॉइज है, उसको इग्नोर करिए. As an investor, my objective is to make money. Now, some people want to make money in short term, some people want to make money in long term. We have realized that we don't have ability to play T20. मैं तो चेतेश्वर पुजारा हूं, मैं अभिषेक शर्मा थोड़ी हूं जाके T20 में चौके छक्के मार दूं. तो if you are Abhishek Sharma, please play T20 game. There are many hedge funds which use algos to make money in the short term, but we don't have that ability. So we play test match long-term inning. Now, if I know FPIs are selling at any price, like they did during COVID-19, we kept on buying at much, much lower prices. उन दिनों गौरव भाई ऑर्डर आता था 10 लाख रिलायंस बेच दो, नो प्राइस लिमिट, तो हम 10% नीचे करके भी लिए. आज एफपीआई बोलता है 10 लाख रिलायंस बेचना है बट ये प्राइस पे. Now then I have to take a call. At this price, is it worth buying a stock? And will I make money over next 6 days or will I make money over next 6 years? We are not playing T20 games, so I don't take 6 days call, I take 6 years call. FPI selling is now consistent, and which is why we are lowering prices to buy. There is no easy exit given to anyone. At the end of the day, if prices go up, FPI benefit, I also benefit. I have to buy looking at value, not at the price. My feeling is that most domestic investors have matured. Post-budget, I have done a couple of meetings and I didn't see a panic among investors despite telling them that FPIs will continue to sell. So, there is no easy exit given to anyone. Market में कोई किसी का relative नहीं होता. सब अपना अपना pound of flesh निकाल लेते हैं. But we are investing for long term and we think long term India growth story is still intact. Yes, FPIs will continue to sell, will look to build portfolio at lower valuation, lower prices, so that we can generate better return.
Right. No, I think that's the right way to look at it, Nilesh bhai, and I agree that markets are maturing. There's a great degree of patience that our investors are showing, and I remember that this debate, in fact, when FPI's selling was getting countered by DII buying, I think in the first year even FPIs were a bit perturbed and they actually reached out to wealth firms to find out what is happening and is this seeming to be more permanent. And our, of course, response at that point of time was that financial deepening is just about starting in India, right? So we saw it as a more permanent trend rather than a one-off thing. And let's not forget, like in developed markets also, there is there are roaring kitties and meme stocks which happen. So it's not as if these instances are happening only in India. There is value, there is deep value in Indian markets, and there are deep values in foreign markets as well. So it takes a expert to find out what is the right segment of the market to take exposure, and that is what we are promoting to all our Indian clients, suggesting them to understand that investing is not that easy, as you rightly put. In the last year, Gada Ghoda sab chala hai. That doesn't mean कि anyone can make money in this market, and that will be proven in 2025. So on that note, there's a question from uh, Abhilash Bhimara Setti. Okay, my apologies if I've not got the name correct. But what would be the ideal asset allocation for a moderate to aggressive investor at the current market valuation?
Uh, Gaurav bhai, you will be the right person to answer that because you do asset allocation for so many sets of investors. But my recommendation as a thumb rule will be to follow what our asset allocation funds or balance advantage fund does. For example, my Kotak balance advantage fund is 20 to 80% in cash equity. If it is 20 to 40, you know market is expensive, you should be underweight. If it is 60 to 80, you know markets are cheaper, you should be overweight. And if it is between 40 to 60, which it is currently, you know markets are reasonable, you should be neutral. So develop some external benchmarks to decide between how much to put in debt, equity, and gold based on balance advantage fund and asset allocation. And then take your call in consultation with friends like Gaurav bhai.
We are always available to all our clients and non-clients as well. Always hungry for more investors,
Yes.
partnering with more people. Uh, so Gaurav Chaudhary is asking, what would you prefer, tech-based consumption stocks versus traditional FMCG, CD, BFSI space? And how much lower can, say, Nifty move from these levels, like 5-10% or something? So use your discretion, Nilesh, by which ones do you want to answer?
So one, if you believe I knew where the bottom of the market is, that's truly complementing my skill. But frankly speaking, no one knows. Look at my track record. Did I ever say in COVID time that 7,500 is the bottom? मैं तो 10,000 निफ्टी पे भी बोला खरीदो, 9,000 पे छाती फाड़ के बोला और खरीदो, 8,000 पे फ्रस्ट्रेशन में ये भी बोला घर बेच के निफ्टी खरीद लो. ऐसा बोलना नहीं चाहिए, बट आई डिड से वंस ऑन CNBC TV 18. किसी ने घर बेचा होता तो 10%, 8,000 से 7,500 निफ्टी देख लेता और गाली देता. बट फाइनली 10,000 पे बोला वो भी सही निकला, 9,000 पे बोला वो भी सही निकला, और 8,000 पे बोला वो भी सही निकला. सो वी ऑल never know where the bottom of the market is. We can only tell you that this is a cheap market to buy, this is fairly valued market to buy, and this is expensive market to buy. Cheap market में खरीदेंगे तो investment horizon can be shorter and return expectation could be higher. You could be greedy there. Expensive market में खरीदेंगे तो return expectation बहुत कम करनी पड़ेगी, and investment पे पैसा बनाने के लिए बहुत long term horizon रखना पड़ेगा. But no one knows, or as my friend Vijay Kedia mentioned, दो लोगों की पता है मार्केट का टॉप एंड बॉटम क्या है, एक भगवान और दूसरा झूठा. मैं दोनों में से एक भी नहीं हूं.
Yeah, I think that's a very candid and interesting way to put this forward. Anyways, moving forward, so Rohit Somani is complimenting you, Nilesh Bhai. Excellent explanation, Nilesh Bhai. Your talk boosts us significantly. Even a depressed person becomes excited after listening to you. I very well concur with that. Now his question is: will manufacturing really take up in America, Trump can lower taxes, but what about wages of American workers? He is even deporting low-cost workers.
So very good question, Rohit bhai. And which is why I believe Trump is using all these things for negotiation. This I have heard, and I don't know how true it is, but since it's come often in Trump's announcement, it seems many of the Chinese are sending drugs like fentanyl to Canada, and then it goes to America and creates crisis over there. It's like Pakistan sending heroin to Punjab. Now, they want to stop it, but probably cooperation from the Canadian government was lacking, from China was lacking. And which is why, to achieve that objective, Trump is using tariff and 51st state of America, or threatening to take over Greenland and Panama and so on and so forth. कहीं पे निगाह है, कहीं पे निशाना है. But assuming everything at face value, your point is valid. If manufacturing indeed moves back to US, $88,000 per capita GDP economy won't be able to provide cheap labor, especially when you are throwing away migrants, when you are pushing back migrants. So my feeling is that Trump is using tariffs as a strategy in the first part, but later on it will become tactic for getting his other objectives. And for critical raw materials, critical products, they will shift manufacturing to America to secure themselves, but they won't bring everything under the sun.
Good. So, a few, asset class or product category type questions is what I'm taking up now. So, Sumit Das is asking, multi-asset funds, innovation funds, should investors stay invested in them?
So, Sumit bhai, multi-asset allocation funds are appropriate for those investors who don't have services of wealth manager like Gaurav bhai. If your size is not good enough to get his services, then certainly you can go to multi-asset allocation fund. That's where one can take a call and give responsibility of allocating between debt, equity, and precious metal to fund manager. But if you are already in good, safe hands of a wealth manager, then multi-asset allocation fund doesn't make much sense for you, because your asset allocation is already done by the wealth manager. In terms of innovation, do remember that there is very, very high risk to it. Which innovation will work and which will disappear, no one knows. We have seen how NVIDIA corrected when DeepSeek came. So in innovation, you should be more diversified rather than concentrated, and keep options open, keep investing in everything under the sun on innovation side rather than getting focused or married to just one theme.
Following on, Nilesh bhai, Rachna Dattani and some of the other people like Abhishek Mundra are asking your view on gold plus debt allocations in the portfolio. So Abhishek is asking, is 50% allocation to gold plus debt a good strategy for next 18 to 24 months? And Rachna is asking a general question on gold as a asset class.
So as I mentioned earlier, gold remains attractive because central banks around the world are diversifying their FX reserves into gold. With President Trump's America First policy, even the friends of America will think of diversifying. Not that they have much scope. In Germany and many of the Western world, gold as a percentage of their FX reserve is very, very high. In fact, for long, Germany kept its gold in US Federal Reserve. Now I believe they have taken back maximum of it back to Germany. It's the emerging market which were investing in US dollar securities. China, Saudi, Japan, India, they are large owners of American treasury. And as President Trump's policies makes America first, people will be worried. What if tomorrow America freezes our FX reserves like they did it with Russia? Hence, they will continue to buy gold, and hence gold should get supported.
Good, Nilesh bhai. Moving on to next few questions, I'm trying to club them together. So, Devpriya Kanoria is asking, household debt is going up faster than household assets, excluding HNIs. Will this not lead to ordinary people falling into debt trap and drop in consumption? And then there are a couple of questions from Mahendra Prajapati on global debt view and Girish Purohit on recession in US possibility due to higher long-term rates and debt. So maybe a consolidated view.
So America has debt to GDP ratio as high as 125%. And this still does not take into account debt of agencies like Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, and so on and so forth. Japan has 250% debt to GDP ratio, and they can survive because interest rates are zero. If Japan had to pay Indian interest rates on their debt, 250% ka 7%, 17.5% of budget will only go towards payment of interest. That will be very 17.5% of GDP will go towards payment of interest. It will be more than the revenue of India as a percentage of GDP. So higher debt of America will create lower interest rates eventually, or America will become bankrupt. That's the simple equation we have to keep in mind. Obviously, these are longer term call. In the short term, to control inflation, Fed will like to keep interest rates higher, and maybe they will create inflation eventually to get America out of this high debt to GDP ratio.
Nilesh bhai, one, Gaurav Chaudhary is asking your view on real estate post secular rally past 2 to 3 years. But one interesting point in the budget, which I also wanted to check with you was that I think somewhere in the fine print it is mentioned annual value of two self-occupied properties will be considered as nil, which was one earlier. So this seems to be like a big booster for investments in real estate. So what is your view on this sector now?
So, Gaurav bhai, real estate is all about location, location, location. कांदीवली में एक जगह पे जहां पे गेटेड कम्युनिटी है 35,000 रुपए पर स्क्वायर फुट का भाव है, और दूसरा बिल्डिंग जो स्टैंडर्ड लोन बिल्डिंग है वहां पे 15-20 हजार का भाव है. There is a wide variation in prices. In our own area, if you want to sell old building, the bids are coming at much lower prices, lower than even Kandivali, Borivali prices. I stay in JVPD scheme. So real estate is all about location, location, location. My feeling is that real estate prices will cool off. Higher real estate prices are making real estate units unaffordable. Higher interest rate on housing loan is making real estate unaffordable. Overall, in real estate, be very specific about location. What you buy may not have as much liquidity when you want to sell. So go for premium projects where at least liquidity will be guaranteed.
Sure. I think from a share price perspective, is there any view, Nilesh bhai, on real estate companies? Because there
In
was a significant run up that happened.
in real estate companies, you have to focus on companies whose governance you can trust. Many real estate transactions have cash involved. प्राइसेस ऊपर जाएंगे, प्रॉफिट बनेगा, बट कैश में प्रमोटर के घर पे पहुंचेगा, आपको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. So be very, very careful when you invest in real estate companies about governance.
Absolutely. Bang on. In the same line, there was 100% FDI in insurance announced in the budget. So Dharam Khanna is asking, how is this going to impact our insurance companies, and what is the view on insurance as a sector in equity markets?
So most insurance companies will not be allowed to enter China, or they'll operate with very, very strong restrictions. In India, 100% ownership will be very, very appealing to insurance companies. I remember someone asking Warren Buffett a question, why is Berkshire Hathaway not operating in India? And Ajit Jain, an Indian, was running Berkshire Hathaway insurance operation. Ajit Jain is a person for whom Warren Buffett mentioned, if me and Ajit are flying in an aircraft and there is only one parachute available, give it to Ajit, not to me. He is that valuable to Berkshire Hathaway. Having an Indian and understanding insurance, Berkshire Hathaway didn't invest in India because they wanted majority ownership. Now, maybe if Mr. Buffett hears 100% foreign ownership for insurance company in India, we can see him coming to India. I think many insurance companies would like to participate in a market where 144 crore lives are available for insurance. An industry which is growing at a rapid pace because it's moving from fifth to becoming third largest economy. So this 100% FDI in insurance should go a long way in attracting them.
Nilesh bhai, moving on to next sector, there's a question from Sandeep Dugar on future of defense industry in India. Uh, and anything good that you see in the budget for defense industry?
The allocation to defense has gone up, whereas someone like road railway haven't witnessed that kind of increase. That's positive. But defense industry is facing a very, very different disruption. Gaurav, we have seen on videos how $200 million tank can be disabled or destroyed by $15,000 drone. The future is moving to futuristic defense rather than traditional defense. Aeroplanes may be replaced by drones and missiles. Tanks may be replaced by drones. Explosives may improve from precision point of view, from carpet bombing. And the nature of warfare also can move physical to digital. We believe those defense companies which are adopting for the future, they should do well. Whereas companies which are stuck in the past, like dinosaur, are unlikely to create value for their shareholders.
Padam S. Mehta is asking your views on banking sector.
Banking looks attractive from a valuation point of view because many private sector banks haven't done well on a 3 to 4 year basis. If RBI cuts rates, banks' margin will be impacted negatively and their share prices could come down. In banks today, wholesale banking, corporate banking is looking very clean. No NPA pressure. but it is the unsecured lending, especially to microfinance, bottom of the pyramid, which is facing severe stress. Those banks which have good deposit franchisee and which has good credit culture and where valuations are reasonable, they are worth investing. You are more likely to find them in private sector than in public sector. One segment of banking which you should avoid at all cost is banks with very, very low floating stock and very, very high valuation. A bank where 96% is owned by government, 1% is owned by LIC, and 3% are in public, and which trades at double the valuation of SBI, is certainly not worthy of investment.
I'm just skimming through some of the other questions, Nilesh bhai. There are a few questions on oil marketing companies and oil sector as a whole. So your views on that will help address at least 4 or 5 questions that have been put in the chat.
In oil, President Trump says, drill, baby, drill, which means he will encourage exploration of oil in areas hitherto banned or restricted. This will create higher oil supply and result into lower oil prices. Oil marketing companies today are making money because their product pricing is above international crude basket. However, market is unwilling to give higher valuation for this cash flow because in the past several times when there was election, oil marketing companies were not allowed to price their product above their purchase cost of crude. They had to incur losses. Over a long period of time, profits made when local prices are higher than global prices and losses made when global prices are higher than local prices gets neutralized. So oil marketing companies need to be evaluated from a dividend yield basis because you are unlikely to give them higher valuation. In the near to medium term, as oil prices are likely to remain soft, you can invest in oil marketing companies. But do remember, OMCs don't have pricing power compared to a normal business, and hence you need to buy them cheap and sell when they are cheap.
Nilesh bhai, there are, well, obviously not directly related to budget, but there are a few questions, that have been typed on crypto as an asset, digital rupee and digital yuan, and then Rangarajan Narayanan has also asked about the potential for de-dollarization on cards by China and Russia. So if you want to share your thoughts on these topics.
So there is no scientific way to evaluate crypto. There's no cash flow, there's no dividend yield, there's no terminal value. So when you are looking at crypto, always think, will there be another fool to buy this asset from me? If the answer is yes, go ahead and buy crypto. If the answer is no, then don't buy. And obviously, world doesn't know the answer. People can be fooled. Sometimes people can be fooled for a longer period of time. But all people can't be fooled for all the period of time. So crypto, you need to take it as a gamble. Do what you can afford with the mindset, gaya to gaya, koi farak nahi padega.
So Nilesh bhai, I think most of the questions that came on the chat, the Q&A section, I think we've covered. There are some questions related to specific to taxation. Now, of course, you have already covered the impact
I'm a
of
chartered
personal.
accountant, but I don't know anything on tax. मेरा खुद का return मेरा friend file करता है.
Absolutely. So I've deliberately not taken up those questions, but I do want to remind our listeners that we have another webinar that is scheduled today at 4 p.m., which is with our tax partners, Dhruva Advisors, and where we will be decoding the taxation proposal in more detail. So please register for that webinar. Email would be there in your inboxes, or reach out to your relationship managers for that. Uh, Nilesh bhai, before we conclude, one last thing that I wanted to ask you, and uh, of course, you've explained beautifully the Triveni Sangam in this budget. But I think, uh, if you look at, the way there has been a tilt or shift within the internals, with focus coming off from capex and coming back into consumption driven growth. uh, and we all know that capex used to have a much higher multiplier in terms of GDP with respect to consumption. Uh, do you think we need to worry about the quality of expenditure yet, or this is too early, and maybe the government is just being circumspect about how Trump is going to behave during the year, and leaving the baton for now with RBI to pump prime the economy in a more nuanced manner?
So, Gaurav, it's a very, very simple question, but which has very, very complicated answer. As you have very correctly mentioned, fiscal impulse this year because of prudence is on the lower side, but because of consumption boost and infrastructure spending is on the higher side. Now, this consumption boost can create multiplier effect if people spend money in India. And this infrastructure spend can create multiplier effect for years to come if it is backed by ease of doing business, which unburdens our entrepreneurs, and supported by liquidity and supported by lower rates. This infrastructure spending can create multiplier effect for a longer term if world is not fighting with each other through tariff, but are supporting each other by buying whatever is best producible in different country. So both consumer and capital spending requires some action on the part of RBI, other departments of the government, and most importantly, consumer itself. Now, your call is as good as mine, whether this will happen or not. I believe government will make an attempt to improve ease of doing business, but they are taking baby steps. And हमें हनुमान जी चाहिए जो एक ही छलांग में लंका पहुंच जाए. RBI will provide liquidity. They have already done it. They just have to continue, and they will cut rates. But the rate cuts will be a shallow cycle, 50-75 basis point, not more. Consumers के ऊपर, my bet is that people will spend money in India. Some, of course, will go abroad. We can't stop people. But majority will be spent in India, and hence there is a reasonably good chance of multiplier effect coming. Will it be the most optimum multiplier effect? Answer is no. Because ease of doing business में हम baby steps ले रहे हैं. We need to do a big jump.
That's the right perspective, Nilesh bhai. And to your point on the government also working towards ease of doing business, I remember there was one line in our finance minister's speech which mentioned creation of an index of ease of doing business for states, and I think that's a great step. Though I have not seen much coverage and commentary around it. बट बीइंग अ फाइनेंशियल मार्केट पार्टिसिपेंट्स एनीथिंग जिस पे इंडेक्स बनता है उसमें बहुत भर भर के कवरेज पैसा आता है. सो आई थिंक देयर विल बी अ लॉट ऑफ फोकस दैट विल start shifting once this index is created, and states will start vying for a higher, ranking on that index. And I think that healthy competition will really improve business efficiency and investment allocation and capital utilization, in my view. On a lighter note, I think this budget exceeded to the long-standing demand of the taxpayers or the salaried class of the country by giving them something. But I remember having, off the record chats with colleagues year after year saying, "अरे अपने लिए तो कुछ आना नहीं है इसमें." So I think that is where this was a very pleasant surprise for salaried class. But I do agree with you, and I strongly believe that the benefits that have been given to the taxpayer, there'll be enough consumption, and the right set of sectors need to be figured out. There could be a lag between now and this money finding its way into various sectors and expenditures of household budgets, but definitely it sets the direction very clearly into a more self-reliant, consumption driven growth in the coming future. And I think at you know given the capacity utilizations, I think we just needed a bit of nudge on the utilization front for Indian corporates to pick up the mantle and start investing. I think that is what the government is aiming to do, rather than bearing the burden themselves, all along. I think we may just have a tipping point where there's an additional consumption boost, and then corporates, get into the capex cycle mode in their respective sectors. So, very interesting and animated discussion, Nilesh bhai. I always enjoy, having these candid chats with you, both in person and digitally. We thank you for your valuable participation in this budget webinar. Your insights and contributions have greatly enriched our discussion and provided our clients with deeper understanding of the topic at hand, which is the budget. We appreciate your time and effort for sharing your expertise with us, and we do look forward to your continued involvement and availability for our future discussions. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up this Bright Minds, Bold Insight series with none other than Nilesh Shah to start the year. And we thank you all for being a patient audience and having participated so wholeheartedly with lots and lots of questions posed to us. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and week ahead.
Thank you. All the very best.